You scroll again and pause on a message you've read 7 times. Not because it's long, but because it contains no verbs of commitment, no nouns of belonging, no pronouns that include you in a shared future. Just warmth without weight, affection without address, a kiss. But no name for what it means. This is not indecision. This is architecture. A carefully calibrated system built to keep your nervous system just off balance enough to stay engaged, yet never secure enough to rest. You tell yourself it's modern love, fluid, liberated, unburdened by labels. But what if the label isn't the cage? What if the absence of one is the lock? The situationship does not emerge from chaos. It emerges from design, biological, psychological, and cultural, layered over centuries of human longing. Its power lies not in what it gives, but in what it withholds, clarity. And in that withholding, something ancient stirs. Not romance, but arousal. Not intimacy, but attention. Not safety, but suspense.
Slow motion footage of hands hovering over phone screens, light reflecting off glass, fingers pausing mid-tap. That pause, the breath before the reply, is where dopamine pools like rainwater in a cracked sidewalk.
The god of love lives in a state of need. Plato, the symposium. Ambiguity is not neutral. It is a relational technology one that rewards vigilance and punishes stillness. You are not one person in love? You are 3. And they do not agree. There is the lust system. Fast, limbic, wired for novelty and scent and pulse. It responds to proximity, to touch, to the heat of a glance across a room.
Then there is the romantic love system. Slower, dopaminergic, obsessive, scanning for signs of reciprocity, fixating on micro-expressions, replaying voice notes like sacred texts.
And beneath them both, the attachment system, oldest of all, rooted in oxytocin and cortisol, whispering only 2 questions over and over. Am I safe? Am I enough? These systems operate independently. You can crave someone's body while doubting their loyalty.
You can idealize their mind while feeling hollow in their presence. You can hold their hand and feel utterly alone. That dissonance isn't failure. It's biology speaking 3 languages at once. A triptych of neural pathways: red, lust; gold, romance; deep blue, attachment; pulsing out of sync, inconsistent attention; dopamine spikes, craving, hypervigilance; exhaustion. Deeper cravings. 68% of people in situationships report obsessive checking of messages within 90 minutes of last contact. Adversity and social barriers heighten romantic passion. Fisher, Why We Love.
You are not broken for wanting more. You are wired for connection. But so is they, only theirs fires differently. The avoidant does not hate closeness. They fear its cost, the loss of self, the weight of expectation, the terror of being truly seen and found lacking. So they deploy mixed signals like smoke screens, affection followed by silence, plans made then softened into maybe intimacy deepened then deflected with humor or distraction. Each withdrawal is not rejection, it's regulation. A recalibration of emotional distance to keep their nervous system from flooding. And you whose attachment system hums with quiet alarm at every delay, you lean in harder. You interpret ambiguity as invitation. You reread, reinterpret, reframe.
You become fluent in subtext, fluent in hope, fluent in apology, even when you've done nothing wrong. This is not codependency. It is co-regulation gone asymmetrical. One person pulling back to breathe, the other leaning forward to survive. What they feel versus what you hear. Pull, you pursue, they retreat, you escalate, they disappear. You wait, they reappear. Cycle resets. The trap isn't in the behavior, it's in the shared belief that if you just love better, they'll finally choose you.
Not always intentional, but always consequential.
There is a phrase in attachment science so precise it feels like a scalpel. The smoking gun. It is not the lie, it is not the betrayal. It is the moment, quiet, ordinary, unremarkable when your emotional need is met not with response, but with erasure. When you say, "I'm hurting," and they change the subject. When you ask, "Where is this going?" and they laugh it off. When you share a vulnerability and they reply with a meme. These are not missteps. They are data points. Each one says with surgical clarity, your inner world is not a priority here. Mixed signals are the elegant delivery system for that message.
Because unlike a direct refusal which would trigger grief, boundaries, departure, ambiguity keeps you in the liminal zone. Hopeful, invested, emotionally porous. You stay, not because you're satisfied, but because the alternative feels like falling without a net.
You wear the mask of "I'm fine" while your nervous system screams for coherence. Your body knows danger. Your mind calls it love. You walk on eggshells, not to avoid anger, but to preserve the fragile illusion that this could still become real. 79% of people in prolonged situationships show elevated cortisol levels comparable to chronic stress disorders.
You begin to shrink, not in size, but in substance. Your opinions soften. Your boundaries blur. Your needs become negotiable, then optional, then invisible, even to you. You learn to anticipate their moods before they speak.
You edit your laughter, delay your tears, mute your anger, not out of malice, but out of survival instinct. This is not love. This is fawning, the nervous system's last-ditch effort to preserve connection by dissolving distinction. The fawn response doesn't announce itself with drama.
It arrives in quiet compromises, skipping your therapy appointment because they just need you tonight, canceling plans with friends because they seem lonely, apologizing for needing space.
Calling your intuition overthinking. Believing that love means becoming smaller so they won't feel crowded, so you won't be abandoned. You fold yourself into the shape of their comfort. Not kindness, but terror dressed as generosity.
Every time you silence your truth, you bury a version of yourself alive, that quiet hum beneath the noise. It's not doubt, it's memory of who you were before you started editing yourself for love. You tell yourself, they're kind, they listen, they're fun, they're not abusive. And you're right. But kindness,
without consistency is exhaustion. Listening without follow-through is gaslighting in slow motion. Fun without foundation is entertainment, not intimacy.
The problem is not that they are bad. The problem is that they are insufficiently committed to you. And you have mistaken that insufficiency for compatibility. Situationships thrive on the myth of the good enough partner, the one who meets your surface needs while bypassing your core ones. Safety, coherence, mutual witness. You confuse availability with attunement, chemistry with care, intensity with intimacy. And in that confusion, you mistake endurance for strength. If you were truly valued, clarity would feel like relief, not threat. If you were truly seen, your needs wouldn't require negotiation. You're too sensitive is never about your sensitivity. It's about their inability to hold your reality. A boundary is not a wall you build against someone. It's the line you draw around yourself, and then honor, even when it costs you love. Saying no to ambiguity is the first yes to your own sovereignty.
Here is what no one tells you. Healing does not begin when they change. It begins when you stop waiting for permission, to grieve, to rage, to rest, to reclaim your time, your voice, your definition of love. The work is not to fix the relationship.
It is to reparent the part of you that still believes love must be earned through erasure. That part learned early. If I am quiet enough, small enough, useful enough, I will be kept. Repatriation is not dramatic. It is daily. It is choosing your sleep over their late-night text.
It is honoring your fatigue instead of performing enthusiasm. It is letting a message go unread, not as punishment, but as practice. You are not abandoning them. You are returning home. To the self who knew, before all this, what safety felt like in the bones.
Speak to yourself now as you wish someone had spoken to you at 16. Healing is not the absence of pain. It is the return of discernment. Your worth was never contingent on their clarity or lack thereof. Maya, 29, stopped tracking his Instagram stories.
3 days later, she booked her first solo trip in 5 years, not as rebellion, but as remembrance.
Let us be clear. Walking away is not failure. It is alignment. A situationship ends not with a bang, but with a quiet unbinding, like loosening a knot you've worn so long you forgot it was there. You stop rehearsing conversations in your head. You stop drafting replies you'll never send. You stop scanning their face for evidence that you matter. You begin to notice how much lighter your breath feels when you're not holding it. This is not indifference. It is integration. You have absorbed a lesson not about them, but about the sacred threshold you carry within. The line between care and collapse, between openness and obliteration, between love and self-betrayal. You do not need their closure. You already hold your own. Clarity is not cruelty. It is the deepest form of respect, for them and for you.
You were never the problem in the ambiguity. You were the only one brave enough to name it. If this resonated, if you recognized your breath in these words, pause, breathe, then subscribe.
Not for answers, but for the courage to keep asking the right questions. Your peace is non-negotiable. Not someday. Not when they change. Now, what if the most radical act of love is to stop waiting for theirs?